Welcome to the Built to Sell, Built to Buy podcast, the show that unpacks what it really takes to build a business that thrives, whether you're looking to sell, buy, or simply step back. I'm Sam Penny, and today we're digging into one of the most powerful shifts an owner can make, becoming redundant in your own business so it can run without you. My guest today is Nigel Hall. He's a serial entrepreneur, he's an investor, director at Bonza Business and Franchise Sales, and he's helped countless business owners step back, boost their business value, and achieve successful exits. If you want to know how to build a business that doesn't depend on you, you're about to get the blueprint. Nigel Hall, welcome.
Cheers, Sam. Great to be here today, and I look forward to discussing this topic with you.
Yes, well, look, we've known each other for about 15 years, I'd say, back when you were the entrepreneur in residence at the Innovation Centre at our local university, University of the Sunshine Coast. And your entrepreneurial journey went back way before then. Tell us, how did you get started as an entrepreneur?
I guess it's always been something I've done just naturally. I think I started my first business, which was actually selling part-worn car tyres when I was 15, because I'd got 3 months study leave or 2 months study leave from school, and I didn't really want to study. So I thought, how can I make some money? And my dad was a tyre dealer and he had loads of second-hand tyres around. And I started really back then and built that business up until eventually became my dad's whole business. And then obviously after university, and I studied business because of that, I became an auditor, became an accountant. And one of my clients was a software startup out of the States. And they said, do you want to come and help us set up in Europe? And I did. And risk taking a path from there. So I'm not sure it was a conscious decision. It was just something that was natural and I just got pulled along into.
Do you feel that entrepreneurship is something that is through nature, nurture? Is it something that you learn? What is it?
I think you've got to have the drive to do it yourself. You've also got to be a risk manager. So a lot of people think entrepreneurship's about taking risks, which it is, but it's not about taking risks that you can't manage. It's deciding what risk you can manage, how you can manage it better than other people, and then using that as a find a way where you can create a market because you're prepared to manage risks that other people aren't prepared to take and deliver something to your clients by doing that other people can't deliver.
Now, Nigel, you've had such a successful career as an entrepreneur, and today we're talking about making yourself redundant. Was there a moment in your entrepreneurial past where you realized that at that particular point in time, you were too essential in that business and the business totally revolved around you, and then you made that mindset shift of, I need to remove myself from the day-to-day?
I think I've always been able to remove myself relatively early. And one thing I know is, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're probably still in the toilet. You need to surround yourself with smart people. And if you do that from day one, I think you get a better outcome. And by surrounding yourself with smart people, the business instantly becomes less dependent on you. To do that, you force yourself into a position where you're generating enough revenue or enough cash flow so you can afford to employ those people. So initially, while you're still small, that can be difficult, but that can also be solved by taking on partners on board. And I've quite often started a business along with a business partner because I don't want it to be just dependent on me, or they didn't want to be dependent on them. Between two people or three, you've always got a bit more resilience. And I think that's one of the key things.
Yeah. So, Nigel, how many businesses have you built, and which one really stands out in terms of true owner independency?
That's a difficult one. I mean, I had, I'd say, look, in 94, I started one called Expedite, and we grew that from being 2 people to being about 70 people in 3.5 years. And we sold it at that point. And when we sold it, we stuck around for a year, but then we both left and the business continued running. In fact, 2 months after I'd sold it, I actually went and ran a business in a different country for that company that purchased us. So that was already at the position where there was management structures in place where you could leave. And the next business was similar. We sold that and then I left after 9 months and the business continued. And that was a even faster growth rate. After 2 years, we'd gone from nothing to 120 people, but I'd put a team of people around me from as early as I could, professionals in their space. So basically, as a manager, I believe, or a business owner, what you're there for is not to run the business. It's to make sure the people you put in positions have got the time and the resources to be able to do the job they need to do. And that's your job. Your job isn't to make every decision, it's to enable everybody else to be in a position to make decisions.
So to make yourself truly redundant as an owner doesn't necessarily mean removing yourself from the complete picture and going on a never ending holiday, you're still in there involved in the strategic movement of the organization. And I guess thinking about the smarts of what drives the business. So, in your words, what does it actually mean to make yourself redundant as an owner?
I think the key thing is that you've got no day-to-day operational function that must be performed so that the business can perform. I think taking yourself out of that day-to-day routine means that you're one removed from the day-to-day, and that gives you the time to look at the strategy. It gives you time to implement new systems, new ideas, and to drive innovation with the business, which is equally important. But the business itself will run without you. Will all the innovation, will all the advancement, new technology get implemented if you're not there? Probably not. So you've still got a role to play. It's just not an operational role.
So, why do you think so many business owners resist it or even fear it?
I think the big fear business owners have is letting go and trusting other people to do what they do. And I think that's partly sometimes because they don't have enough trust in their people. They haven't recruited people of an high enough skill. And quite often people recruit other people who they feel confident in managing, who they feel aren't going to challenge them on any point. Whereas what you need as a business owner is to be challenged. You need people to challenge your thoughts. You need them to put their own ideas out there. So you have got diversity, because at the end of the day, Sam, none of us know everything and we all have to take input from everybody.
Yep, definitely. What's the very first thing that you always do in your approach to making yourself redundant from that day to day?
As I say, the first thing I always try and do is when I start a business, start it with somebody else as a partner, because that just gives you that resilience. It gives you the ability to go on vacation. I like to go on vacation, spend some time doing other things. And I'd say after that, the next step is always to find somebody else who can look after the finances, because if you can get someone who controls the finance of a company, they can generally keep a good eye on what's going on in the whole company. If you've got a trusted finance person in your team, then you're very lucky, because they can control everything that's going on in the business through the finance.
Yeah. I want to talk about the systems, people, and then letting go. You've spoken a lot about people. So, how do you find and keep people, but also how can you genuinely trust them to run things without you?
I think that's the same answer to two questions. One is you've got to put them in a position where they've got the same motivations of you, and that's about remuneration. And how do you keep the people? You pay them well and you give them incentive to stay and you give them a career opportunity. So one of the things I always look at is that whoever we've got on board, we always try and map out for them where they could possibly go with the business. It doesn't mean they're always going to get there. They've got to perform to get there. But if you give people something to strive for and pay them according to what they're returning for you, and pay them probably a little bit more than market rate, maybe a lot more than market rate if they're delivering that for you. And my golden rule on that is when you look at someone, they've got to deliver you 3 times what you pay them. And on the other hand, if someone's making you $1 million a year, be prepared to pay them $300,000 a year. And then you'll get the best people and you'll retain them.
Yeah, 100%. Have you got any stories of success or failure in relation to delegating tasks?
I'm just trying to think of one. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at my current business. We appointed a GM who initially came on and took over and became the head broker, and then he became the GM. And in the last year, he's grown the business by 30%.
Wow.
That's fantastic. And we've delegated, I've got out of his way, and he's grown the business 30% this year. And I'm pretty sure he'll grow it again 30% next year. And I can do that while I'm working 3 days a week and coming up with new innovation to help make the business easier to run.
It's absolutely fantastic. So let's talk about systems then. What are the role of systems, SOPs, all those kinds of things in allowing you to work 3 days a week?
Well, I think the first thing is policies and procedures. Documenting everything you do and making everything you do into a process makes things much, much easier to duplicate. And it makes it much easier to be able to scale a business if you've got that. Key to scaling is always having a procedure that can be done by multiple people or different people. And then taking all the tasks in a business and breaking them down into parts where you can build different departments to do those tasks, because that also enables you to be able to scale and gain efficiencies. Because if you've got one person trying to do everything, you've got a jack of all trades who's not a specialist. If you've got people who are specialists in 4 or 5 different departments, and you've got the best people doing everything, and that's when you start getting efficiencies. And those efficiencies lead to You've been able to systemize, and that in the end leads you to be able to work 3 days a week because everything's systemized, and put somebody in place who's going to run that system for you.
So if we look at Bonza business and franchise sales, you manage a huge amount of data. You've got a lot of businesses that are coming you to be sold, a lot of buyers really interested in investing in businesses. How do you manage so much data? How much is tech driven? How much is run by just plain simple checklists and SOPs?
So in the interim, the systems have come on that far that you can take what used to be checklists and SOPs and put them into platforms where workflows run themselves. So for example, with our system, we get 1,000 buyers, 1,200 buyers every week. Business brokers input that data manually into their system. There's not many business brokers get as many leads as Bonza. There's one who gets that many. But even if you input in 200 leads a week, that's 200 points of value you've got there. We've built a platform where our 1,200 leads a week go into our system electronically, and the piece of software just extracts the right information, puts it into the right place, and then automatically sends that person an email. It means we've eliminated all of that work from somebody re-inputting 1,200 pieces of data a month, which means there's not 1,200 potential mistakes a month. And then the follow-up to that is automated through workflows, which means everything gets done on time. And once those tasks are done, then if there's any manual tasks that need to be done, there's a task set within the system so that whoever's task it is gets a notification, and we can track whether those tasks are being done on time or not, to maintain our service level that we promise ourselves internally and to our clients that we'll get back to them in a timely manner.
So I think for a lot of the business owners out there who are listening to this, from what I'm hearing, the first step is, I guess, identify the task, understand all the steps that are involved in that, and then being able to delegate that to a person. But then also seeing if technology can take some of those steps or even all of those steps and automate. And if you can automate, like you said, you remove a lot of the human error from it, but also to automate so many steps these days with technology and the tools that are coming through is becoming so much easier for a business owner to implement.
Absolutely. And I think the beauty of automation is it doesn't mean you want to get rid of staff or you're going to reduce the number of staff. What it means is you can focus your staff on things that are more important to the business. So rather than a business broker sitting there re-inputting data, they can actually be having conversations with buyers and sellers. And as a result, they become more productive and they end up selling more businesses. So the end of this automation for us internally, which increases our productivity, actually improves the result for our customers, which is what you have to think about as a business all the time. How can I best serve my customers, because they're the ones who keep us in business?
Now, making yourself redundant from a business isn't all about working 3 days a week or going on extended holidays. There is quite a result to making yourself independent from the business. And that's how it relates to the valuation. Now, your unique position of being an entrepreneur, but also with Bonza business and franchise sales, how does that owner independent business valuation compare to one that is owner dependent? Let's just say they're both doing $500,000 a year. One's owner independent, one's owner dependent.
What it does is it broadens your buyer pool. So if you're looking for an owner operator, you're looking for someone who is skilled in that area, who understands the business and who wants to work 40 or 50 or 60 hours a week to run that business. If you make it owner independent, all of a sudden you can take people who haven't got that background, who may have a full-time job elsewhere, who want a business where they can give input maybe on a daily basis with phone calls or a weekly basis. So you broaden it to investors as well. And that, because there's then more people looking at a business, it increases competition. And because it's under management, that broader buyer pool, also generally people, because they've got a second income and they're looking to add, can afford to pay a higher multiple for business. So the effect is of having it under management is you can actually achieve a higher multiple.
Kind of makes a lot of sense then, investing in making yourself redundant. And also as the business owner, as the entrepreneur, it certainly does free you up to drive the business further and to enjoy the business a lot more as well. Now, tell me, you work 3 days a week. How did your life change when each single time with all the businesses that you run, when you step out of the weeds, how does your life change?
Look, 5 days a week or can actually turn into 7 days a week because you don't stop thinking about it. And I think, another big effect of having somebody else managing the business for you is that when you go home at 5 o'clock or take the long weekend off, that you really haven't got to be concerned about what's going on in the business, so you can completely switch off. I think that leads to you being more relaxed. It leads to being more able to be in the moment all the time rather than focusing purely on just what's happening with the business and being concerned. So it takes a lot of stress from you, and less stress leads to a better life.
Yeah, most certainly. Now, I want to talk about some of the common pitfalls and lessons for owners from your experience. Where do you reckon most owners stuff this up, trying to make themselves redundant?
First of all, they don't even think about the step. I think they're just too scared to let go. Then when they do want to take that step, they tend to look at promoting somebody internally who may have no management background or no management training. You really need someone who has gained that experience in a top corporation or in a good company that does good training previously. So they do have those management skills, so that they do know the difference between a balance sheet and the profit and loss. They do have an understanding generally of what sales involves. So you do need someone who's got a good background in business, probably has got a good educational background. So my GM here, for example, he was with Flight Centre before and ran a team of 50 people there. So he's far better at managing people than I've ever been. And get people who are better at what you're not good at. You'll get the results for it. I think quite often people choose people who are too similar to themselves to run the business because they think that's what it needs. What you really need is someone who's better than you at the things you're not good at, because you can help them fill the other gaps and they can fill your gaps for you.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if someone's listening and they're stuck in the daily grind, where do you reckon they should start?
First of all, set yourself a goal that's realistic and maybe say, okay, in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, 4 years' time, I want to have this business under management, and then work backwards from there. So what does that actually mean? That will mean systems and procedures, documenting your workflows, putting systems in place, then recruiting someone, put them into a position where they can start learning more and more of the business with a view that they are going to be your successor. So an actual succession plan that's fixed those timelines. And in those timelines, then set interim goals using your SMART goals so that they are set in a way that you can measure them, they're achievable, they're realistic, and they're timely.
Now, obviously, getting the right people into the right roles is such a big thing. And I've worked with many business owners who have gone out, employed people, and after 6 months, they've gotten rid of those people. Now, through the conversation, they raise a comment, they just weren't right in the role. And I said, well, when did you first realize that? Oh, about 2 weeks in. Now, as a business owner, Nigel, and an entrepreneur, when you've got that gut feel about someone in that role, what's your approach?
Make a decision quickly. So if you know someone's not right after 2 weeks, get rid of them. However, what I would say is, because it's the owner or the entrepreneur who's trying to move aside, that can be very difficult. And quite often people recruit people who are very good at a high corporate level, but they're not very good at getting stuff done. And I think you've got to really recruit for the role that it is, not for the role you'd like it to be. Because if you recruit somebody from Telstra who's been running a team of 100 people, they probably know how to run people, but they don't know how to run a business. So you've got to be very cautious, and you've got to bring them on at a position where they're probably not going to step straight into that role of your role, but step into a role where they can work to you, learn the mechanics of the business so that they can take over in 12 to 24 months' time. It's difficult to replace an entrepreneur, but you've got to have the trust in them, and that trust is going to be built over time. And recruiting the right person from day one, you go, trust, and I can give them my business after 2 weeks, is extremely difficult, or even after 6 months. I like to see somebody perform on a consistent basis in part of the business, show that they've got that ability, and then promote them.
Yeah. Now, Nigel, I always like to finish these chats with a bit of a quick-fire Q&A. 4 questions, very broad. What's the biggest business myth you want to bust? I
think many business owners look at their business, and it may be one that's under management. It's generally people who are running their own business, and they go, this isn't saleable. And we have these conversations on a day-to-day basis. What we find is, if the business is set up right, if the owner is open to discussion, is a friendly person, and they're doing something that's needed by the community, which means they're generating revenue, there's buyers out there for their business. What stops most businesses selling is that they don't actually go to market. So they decide not to sell their business because they're afraid of failing. And you've just got to take that step. And once you start playing the game, you've got a chance of success. But if you never play the game, you're never going to win the game. And I think the biggest myth is many businesses aren't saleable. Most businesses are priced right, positioned right in the market, and given it enough time to sell. They don't all sell in 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. Sometimes it takes a year. Sometimes it takes a year and a half. Sometimes it takes 3 months. But give it a chance, and you may have a pleasant surprise and more money to retire on.
Yep, fantastic. Now, what's one system every business needs?
I think everybody should have a CRM system these days so that they can effectively manage their customer communication and optimize that for follow-ups, on sells, etc., etc. Yeah, your customer's key to your business. Keep your customer happy and your business will be happy.
Yeah. Now, is there one book that changed the way you think about business?
Probably an economics book a long time ago. The one theory was opportunity costs, and I work a lot with opportunity costs. So I can't remember which book it was in. It might have been Milton Friedman or something like that. But opportunity costs is there's always a cost of doing something and not doing something. The biggest cost is always attached to not doing something. So always have a go. Always don't put things off. Don't wait till things are perfect. Have a go. Do what you think is right. And it doesn't matter if it's right or not. As long as you've done something, you're going to move forward. Sometimes you have to make mistakes to find out, and don't be scared of making mistakes.
Now, last question. What's your definition of success now?
Definition of success, very, very much linked to enjoyment. Success is creating a working environment where people like to come to work and where your customers like to interact with the business. I think that's success for me.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, Nigel, where can people follow your work, connect with you? Where should they go?
Yeah, well, I'm on LinkedIn. I do a post or two a week. I think that's about it really for social media. I've sort of abandoned everything else. Otherwise, through Bonza, you can get in touch. We've got a team here who will help every business owner look at what their saleability is and help them find a price at no charge. We quite often have conversations with people who say, look, I've got no intention to sell my business, but I'm going through a divorce. I just need a bit of an indication where I can sell from. We'll do that free of charge because we know at the end of the day, the more people you speak to, the more people you do good things for, that comes back as karma.
There always seems to be not just a focus on building the business, building the profit, the systems, those kinds of things. But I've heard through this a lot of doing good. Now, that's obviously part of one of your personal core values of doing good and providing more for the community, for people. Do you drive your business on core values?
Yes, we do. Absolutely. Honesty, integrity, but also I think on a more basic level, being friendly and being empathetic to people. Some people, when they're selling a business, are in a great position. Some people are in a terrible position. And just understanding and listening to the people at that time is really key. And I think that's one of our core values, is just being empathetic to people.
Well, Nigel, thank you very much for coming on Built to Sell, Built to Buy today.
Thank you, Sam. Really enjoyed the chance to have a discussion with you.
Thanks for listening to Built to Sell, Built to Buy podcast. If today's episode sparks some ideas or you're serious about making your business more valuable, don't leave it to chance. You can book a free 30-minute strategy call with me at sampenny.com/strategy. We'll dig into your specific situation, map out your next moves, and make sure you're all set up for success, whether you're looking to exit, buy, or simply create more freedom in your business. If you found this valuable, don't forget to subscribe and share the show. I'm Sam Penny. See you next time.